What's going on, Packers fans? Welcome into Pack-A-Day Happy Hour. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks so much for being here. Excited to chat all things Green Bay Packers with you guys for the next hour or so. And if you need more Packers than that, Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV, Packers Daily will be following right away at 4 o'clock p.m. So you've got your next 2 hours set for you if you want to do it in that way. But again, appreciate all of you guys being here. Today's show is presented to you by Luige's Pizza. And just because of that, I can show you guys what I'm going to be doing as soon as we are done here. We've got the Big Daddy double mushroom, double sausage pizza coming at you pub style. I'm excited about this one. As picky of an eater as I am in love with mushrooms. It is a very weird thing for a very picky eater, but yeah, excited to get this in my belly later on tonight. And yeah, Luige's Big Daddy pizza, double mushroom, double sausage. That is happening tonight, and I'm very excited about it. Check them out over at luiges.com, and of course, follow them on social media at luigespizza.com, and of course, on social media at Luige's Pizza. Appreciate the sponsorship and partnership, Luige's. You guys are the absolute best. All right, with that, let's get to all of your incredible questions. First of all, Brad T4427, thank you so much for becoming a brand new YouTube member. I really appreciate that a ton. We should get through pretty much, I would think, the majority of questions today. But if we do get towards the end, I will prioritize member questions. And then, of course, if you want to make sure your question gets in, make sure to get those super chats in as well. We'll start with John, though, who not only is a member, but was the first one in today at 1:36 to get his question in. Happy Friday, Andy. Am I the only one who doesn't hate that there was a fight? I get that the coaches can't let them go at it, but I like the attitude of not taking bleep. I was asked this today on the radio show by my producer, Tommy, as well. I think there has to be a piece of Matt LaFleur that's like, knock it off. But like, and secretly he's like, yeah, like he kind of like enjoys the fact that they're willing to go to battle a little bit. But I will say this, a couple things. The first is that you don't want to be undisciplined. And if you are able to throw a punch in a practice, you are able to throw a punch in a game. And that would get Zach Tom ejected. And that would get you a 15-yard penalty at least. And if you're going against Detroit week 1 and you have a game plan for Aiden Hutchinson that includes Zach Tom being your starting right tackle, and all of a sudden he is out, and that's an Anthony Belton coming in or something like that, that changes things exponentially. Not to mention the penalty that actually happens on the field as well, probably takes you out of any sort of opportunity to score on that given drive. Just that penalty in and of itself, the failure to score on that drive, could be the difference between winning and losing against Detroit, not to mention losing Zach Tom for the remainder of that game. So if you do it in practice, there's a possibility that it can carry over into a game. I don't think Matt would have been too upset if Zach Tom went out there, shoved the guy a little bit, got in his face, and defended his teammates, etc. I think he probably gives him a slap on the ass and says, hey, let's not let it get to that point, but I appreciate the fact that you had your teammates' backs and things like that. When you get to the point of throwing fists and multiple punches and everything like that, I do think at some point there is probably a line that's crossed, especially when you're the head coach and you set very strict rules of engagement of, hey, it cannot escalate. It cannot throw punches. We cannot let this thing get out of control. And they have a meeting prior to the game or the practice. They have both teams get together prior to the practice to set that. And then all of a sudden you're the one that's, out there looking crazy, throwing punches. The attitude, the toughness, all of that stuff. Yeah, there's absolutely a piece of that where you're like, all right, appreciate that. We need some of that on our team, and I'm not going to be too upset over it. But there does become a line that you don't want to cross. I think Zach Tom probably took that a little bit too far, as did some of the Seahawks players, as did Anthony Belton. It wasn't just Zach Tom, but I think it's an example of, hey, I don't mind you having your guys' backs, but there has to become a point where you say, all right, enough's enough. I'm going to go walk back to my teammates and let this be done escalating at a certain point in time. So don't hate that they had that piss and vinegar in them, but I don't think I want it, nor does Matt want it escalating to that level. I would like to point out that the fighting could be due to the refs. No fights when McManus was reffing. To be fair, no other team when McManus was reffing either. But yes, Brandon McManus does run a tight ship at practice. That's for sure. Happy Friday, Andy. Less than 2 weeks before the season kicks off, I asked a question recently because you commented about how the Colts would be bad. Was trying to say that them and the AFC, NFC South being bad will hurt our playoff chances if we don't win the division. NFC West with Seattle and Arizona could win. Gotcha. Okay. 10 plus games if the Colts, Jaguars, Titans, Panthers, etc. are terrible. Same way that we won 11 games last year by going 1-5 in the division and beating one good team. We feasted on bums. We need them to be at least feisty this season. Yeah, very much so. All you can do is play the schedule that's in front of you. And there's going to be teams that are better than we thought. There's going to be teams that are worse than we thought. Go back to last year. You go to Green Bay's schedule, and when the schedule was released, you looked at Miami and San Francisco in November, and you're like, oh my God, that's going to be a brutal couple weeks. And it was two of the easier games on the schedule once they actually came to town, right? The Rams, I think would have been a much tougher team, of course, had their top receivers, I should say, had been there. Sometimes you just don't know what injury luck you're going to have, what injury luck the other team's going to have, and how some of those things come to fruition. So all you can do is, again, play the team that's across from you. Hopefully Green Bay can go out. I don't care if they're playing the best teams or the worst teams. Go out, play their best brand of football, become a playoff team, and then ultimately play their best football come January and February. Also, really enjoyed the Parsons episode, probably my favorite of all time. Wow, that's saying something, Mike McGee. You did not mention extending Love, Jacobs, and X to create space. I didn't say it directly, but I said that's where you get into kicking those contracts down the line and those sort of things. So I inferred it, if not specifically referencing it. If those guys are long-term, that creates space as well, for sure. And you can definitely get into some of that stuff also. It's not to beleaguer or go too far into this at all, but it's always interesting of somehow I will get to an end of an episode, or I'll be like recording it and I'll be like, oh, it was fine. It was good. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I really, really enjoyed that one. Thought it really went well. This one I felt went really well. I don't think I could have done anything more than I wanted to in that particular episode to kind of go through all the little points and minutia that I wanted to. And there are other times it's funny. There'll be times where I'm like, oh my God, that is not the way I wanted that episode to come across, or I wanted to do something different. And then of course it's like, those are the ones that are some of the highest rated ones. And then the ones that I'm like, oh, that one went awesome. I can't wait for people to see this. It's all like, a much lower percentage of likes than usual. Just usually goes that way. But this one was one that I really enjoyed as well. So Mike, I'm glad you appreciated and liked that one. Dennis, thank you for the super chat. Which player will have his roster spot determined Saturday night? Yeah, we'll talk about this quite a bit in our pregame show for tomorrow. But I think the very easy answer here is the cornerback room. To me, you have three locks. You have Carrington Valentine and Nate Hobbs and Keyshawn Nixon. And it certainly seems and feels like Bo Melton is making this team as well. So I don't know that I could quite put him in that 100% lead pipe lock, but I'll just say I'd be pretty stunned if he doesn't make the team at this point in time, or at least pretty surprised. But then after that, you're at least keeping 5 corners, and you could keep up to 6. And if you told me Corey Ballantyne, Kalen King, Micah Robinson, Kamal Haddon, or a player that's not even on the team right now, somebody that they pick up via trade or off waivers, is their number 5 or 6 corners on this team, I would believe any of those things. All 4 of those guys I just named, Ballantyne, King, Haddon, and Robinson, if you told me any of them made the team, I would believe you. If you told me any of them got cut, I would believe you. So that to me is where those spots very much up for grabs in this final game. If somebody goes out and looks dominant tomorrow, a huge opportunity, and not just on defense, but on special teams as well, a huge opportunity for them to make the team. And then on the flip side, if any of those 4 go out and just crap the bed on Saturday, well, then it's going to be a problem for them also. I think the final wide receiver spots as well, is McCole Hardman versus Malik Heath it? Do any of the other wide receivers get their name in the conversation? Can Hardman have his Desmond Howard-esque moment where he returns one for a touchdown and I'm like, all right, that's our returner? I think all of those are probably the ones that I'm keeping an eye on the most, but corner is definitely 1A when it comes to that discussion. All right. What day is cut down to 53? Tuesday. Will you be talking to Justice before or after or both? We're going to talk to Justice on Monday for Tuesday's episode. So leading into that day, Justice and I will be talking and kind of going over our final thoughts on roster construction and things like that. We'll probably do a 53-man together, and that should be really fun. Assuming that Green Bay does wait until Tuesday to cut players down, you don't have to. Teams already have started cutting players. New England started cutting players today. Pittsburgh started cutting players today. So you could see as soon as that preseason game is done on Sunday or Monday, Green Bay could be very active already. Usually they wait till the end, but Tuesday is technically cut down day. But Monday night, I'll talk to Justice Tuesday night, I will do a show breaking it down for Wednesday after everything is all said and done. But Tuesday is technically cut down day. Did you accept Justice eat a hat bet? We did not. We'll have to decide that on if we're going to bet on anything on Monday and sort of finalize the terms to any bets going into that final day. Give me a P, give me a R, give me an S, give me an O, give me an N, give me an S. What's that spell? Getting my hopes up. Pokey, go for it, my man. According to Bill Huber, the odds that Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer are spiking in Vegas circles. And by that, I mean it went from basically a 0% chance up into about an 8.8% chance. So it is, you're telling me there's a chance. I will also say this. They are now third on the list of most likely teams to end up with Micah Parsons per Vegas. Number one being the Dallas Cowboys. Number two, the Arizona Cardinals. And number three is your Green Bay Packers. But we did see, according to Bill Huber, who did the research on this, those numbers spike quite a bit. Andy, what would be more heartbreaking to see week one? McManus missing a field goal, receivers dropping passes, or an O-line penalty resulting in a stalled drive? The drop passes for sure. No question about it. McManus is going to miss field goals this year. That's going to happen. There's going to be offensive line penalties throughout the course of the season. That's going to happen. And while there are going to be drops as well, if there's like a simple drop that one of these receivers, drops in a key moment against Detroit, I think it's going to be like the apocalypse on social media when it comes to Packers Twitter and things like that. It will not be fun. So for me, I don't want to see any drops week one. If we can get through week one with no drops, that will be a victory in and of itself. Do you think Matt will increase his fourth down conversion attempts this year? Yes. Do you think it will involve more of the Tucker shove? Don't know about that. I'm sure we'll see a little bit of that. I think if there's no surprise on it anymore. If I'm Green Bay, I'm not like motioning him into that spot. I'm just going to let him line up and say, hey, it's coming. But I do think we still see Tucker Kraft in that position sometimes. But more importantly, I do think Matt's going to be much more aggressive in going for fourth downs this year. And I think the large part of why he didn't last year, or at least a big piece of it, was just Jordan's injuries and maybe not feeling confident all the time. And also just having a defense that he actually trusted. But I would actually argue if you trust your defense, then you should feel more confident going for it, because even if you set up your defense in poor positions, they're going to be able to get that stop anyway, or at least hold them to a field goal. So I would expect more fourth down opportunities this year for Green Bay. All right. If we were to acquire Parsons and he were to get hurt, doesn't mean it's over. Eagles have gone to 2 Super Bowls with $60 million dead cap. 49ers have gone to a Super Bowl after trading 3 firsts for Trey Lance. It's still possible. Of course, there's always opportunity, right? It just means you have to be really perfect kind of in everything else. And everything else kind of has to go the way that you want it to. Your young players need to develop the right way. You have to be able to overcome some adversity. All of those things can be true, but you definitely have to really make sure that you were capitalized, just like the Philadelphia Eagles did when you get Zach Bond playing as a first-team All-Pro for next to nothing monetarily, when you get Saquon Barkley at an incredible price, given what he was able to bring to that team, when you draft, Quinyon Mitchell in the first round and then Cooper DeJean in the second round, and they both play like almost Pro Bowl caliber, defensive backs. You just need all of those things to start going right and in your favor. Mekhi Becton to be brought in as a flyer free agent and play as a really impressive starting right guard. We can go on and on. Philly nailed every single one of those opportunities to go out and acquire players. Yeah, if Green Bay does that too, they're going to be in a good spot. But you certainly, if you're going to go, all in for Micah Parsons, would prefer that he comes in and becomes an absolute terror on defense for you, and you don't have to count on the other stuff, that he can be a huge reason as to why you're actually winning those games and hopefully winning the Super Bowl. At practices, do the beat writers coordinate who watches what? No, not exactly. I do think, for like PackersNews.com with like Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein and, Pete Doherty, like those guys, and, Dominic Yates and those guys, those guys will, kind of communicate together of who's doing what in practice. And sometimes like a Bill Huber and a Matt Schneidman might communicate to do like an offense defense if there's, in a joint practice, things like that. But for the most part, they're usually everyone's just watching the first team in a normal practice, and the second team guys are mostly going unwatched, or maybe just a quick glance over there if we feel something big is going on or something like that. But for the most part, there's not really a need to do that outside of, again, if you're in a multimedia group like PackersNews.com, where they've got multiple people who have different assignments throughout the course of that practice. Which of the starting D line would you say is potentially on the hot seat this year? All of them. I think all of them are. Let me specifically say defensive tackle. I would say the defensive tackles that's an interesting group. That's when I hear D line, that's kind of what I think of. Edge, I kind of think of differently. But at defensive tackle, I think almost all of them. If you look at Kenny Clark, he's got a big contract coming up next year that they can get out of. Like he's got to go out and perform if he wants to stay on this team and earn that contract next year. Devontae Wyatt is going to be on the team because he's on the guaranteed deal next year. But after that, if he wants any sort of extension or big time contract, like he's going to have to prove it this year, and I guess going into next year a little bit as well. But they start looking for Wyatt's replacement if he doesn't have a good year this year. Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, they both very much have to go out and have good seasons this year, or they're going to be very replaceable next year. And then Brinson, Stackhouse, anyone else is constantly on alert for their roster spot. So think along the defensive interior, kind of everyone. Wyatt is the only one that's pretty much guaranteed to be on the roster next year. Defensive end, LVN will be here next year, barring some sort of insane collapse. Rashawn Gary should be here next year as well. Enigbari will be a free agent. And then you get into just, next guys up, right? And Sorrell should probably be on this team next year as well. But I would expect, barring anything else, Rashawn Gary, LVN, Baron Sorrell, Devontae Wyatt are probably the four that I feel best about having roster spots locked in for 2026. Everything else is kind of up for grabs at the moment. Why don't running backs contribute on special teams more? Just depends. Like Chris Brooks has special teams responsibilities, so they have that capability. But if you look at kind of like body types and things like that you expect out of your running backs, outside of maybe being like a protector on the punt team, if you get to something like that, or an actual like kick returner or punt returner, there's really not a spot that makes a ton of sense for a running back. It's sometimes the up back. So like Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks will be there sometimes. For like, if you're doing two kick returners, it might be, like Keyshawn Nixon back and then, Brooks like right in front of them as kind of like a blocking type running back right in front of them. But outside of that, there's not a ton of spaces on like kick return, kick coverage, punt coverage, etc. that just makes a ton of sense for the running back, like sort of archetype that in their body type. There's only a few, again, returner and maybe like up back and a couple other things that kind of make some sense. But for the most part, usually don't get a lot of great tackling running backs either, which is always a huge key in special teams also. Take on Daniel Jones starting over Anthony Richardson and the whole Anthony Richardson fiasco. It's a fun topic of conversation, John. There's a lot that goes into this. Let's start with the decision this year. And I won't spend a ton of time because I know this is pack a day, but I'll spend a couple seconds on it. The first thing I'll say is that organization, the GM and the head coach are insanely on the hot seat. They have to win right now. There is no, well, we went 4-13, but Anthony Richardson took some strides. No, you're nuked at that point. So they have to win as many games as they possibly can. And if Daniel Jones gives them a 0.01% better chance to win games this year, that front office and that head coach probably has to take it at this point. I don't think Daniel Jones gives you enough of an upside or enough of a win rate to, sort of take away the opportunity that's there with Anthony Richardson. I will also tell you, I don't think Anthony Richardson's ready at this point in time to be a starting caliber quarterback. Could you play him in moments? Could you play him in series? Could you play him in certain packages? Yes, but I don't think he's ready to be the full-time starting quarterback either. So I can kind of understand the decision. But if it were me and I'm looking at a long-term approach, I'm probably going with Anthony Richardson in that scenario and taking things very slowly with him, trying to do a run-oriented offense and just putting some very simple concepts on his plate while we try to evolve over time. The overarching thought here, though, is NFL teams are really, really stupid. Anybody who is going to take Anthony Richardson with the, a first, or like what, top 5, top 10 pick when they took him, I forget what it was exactly, but top 10 pick for sure. Anybody that's going to do that needs to recognize and realize if there's ever a quarterback that you need to basically start from scratch, get the fundamentals down, let him develop, get a 3 or 4 year, maybe probably a 3-year starter to come in and be the starter for the foreseeable future. That's one, by the way, that you could have done the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix thing with. If you did sign somebody like a Kirk Cousins and then draft Richardson, I think everyone would have been like, yeah, Richardson probably needs 3 years to kind of develop behind a quarterback. I totally understand that situation. So for them to throw him into the fire right away, clearly not ready, then bench him, then bring him back, then bench him, then bring him back, now bench him again. They've done him no favors. They have not allowed him to get his feet underneath him. They've thrown him into the fire when they never should have thrown him into the fire. Just a unmitigated disaster and a terrible use of resources. Either you don't take him in the first place, or you take him to develop him, spending 3, maybe even 4 years developing him as a quarterback, that giving him the time that he needs, and then getting him into the fray. Basically, the last thing that they can do is exactly what they did. Worst case scenario, brutal management, and really, really poor job by the Indianapolis Colts. Just very disappointing to, in my opinion, kind of ruin a player like that, in all honesty. If Good puts 2 players on IR designated to return and claims a player at cutdowns, can he then put a 3rd player on IR to make room on the 53 and bring them back later in the season, or does he have to cut someone? No. So how this would work is you use your 2 IR designated to returns on cutdowns, get to your 53-man roster, and then if you're going to claim somebody on the next day, the player that you could put somebody on IR the next day and then just put them on IR. You don't have to designate them to return at that point, but you could designate them to return later. But they wouldn't be out for the year as long as they're on the active 53-man roster to begin with. So no, if you're claiming somebody after cutdowns, meaning like the actual cutdowns on Tuesday or whatever, then at that point, yes, you could claim somebody on Wednesday and put a new player on IR and eventually designate them to return at a later date. Seen so many people freak out about cap ramifications of major injuries, and I wonder if more teams might start taking the insurance out on the $40+ million wide receiver edge like many do for quarterbacks. I'm sure some teams are already, John. I have not followed that super closely, but I'm sure some teams are, and I am sure that is going to be something that probably becomes more prevalent as time goes on. The AI stuff lately is becoming utter nonsense. Dobbs possible cut or on the trade block. Simpson signed at linebacker, a star in the making. Should grab Parsons to pair with Simpson for an elite duo 1. Sorry, that's a different one. Sorry, that was a connection from later. There was a tweet or a message in between there from Ben. Ben, I'm not sure I totally understand the AI stuff becoming utter nonsense and how that relates to the second part of this. My apologies in not putting 2 and 2 together. But is Dobbs a possible cut or on the trade block? I don't think so. Matt certainly shut that down with Kay Adams the other day, so I don't think so. Simpson is still at safety, right? Or did they actually move him to linebacker? Because I think he's at safety. Yeah, Simpson's at safety. He's wearing number 38. He's listed as a safety on the roster. So could they move him to linebacker on the practice squad? Maybe. But I think he's probably just one of those players that is practice squad at best. And I think he'll have to really earn his practice squad spot in preseason. Should grab Parsons to pair with Simpson for an elite duo. Again, if you're grabbing Parsons, you're probably not putting him at edge. And then is this all? I guess maybe this is all A stuff being utter nonsense. Okay, now you're making more sense, Ben. My apologies for not putting those 2 together. All right, that makes a lot more sense. I see what you're saying now. Suggesting that ad policy is going to make a trade for Parsons that Jerry can't refuse. Yes. All right, got it. All right, my bad on that. Cut down Tuesday is always fun, very much so. Oh, okay. Let me actually go back to this. It's a weird situation. I really, really, truly feel for all the players that are getting released and seeing their dreams dashed on these next 4 days, right? I want to be very clear on that because it is a brutal day around the league. You've got guys that have worked their entire lives for trying to get these opportunities and end up on the chopping block. It certainly is not the final stake. You know, you have a lot of opportunities to continue to grow and find spots on practice squads and things like that, but doesn't make it any less easier for families and for these players that have worked so hard and put so much time into this. So I really feel for that. There is legitimately an excitement to see what that initial 53 roster looks like. There's no 2 ways around it. It's a weird dynamic where it's a very exciting day as a fan, yet we have to have this sort of wherewithal of like, it's a really brutal day in the NFL and a brutal few days in the NFL. So really feel for those people. But yeah, if we're being real about it, if we're being human about it, there is a real excitement to see that 53. So hope everyone lands on their feet. I hope everyone becomes a Hall of Fame player. We know it doesn't work that way, but yes, it is an exciting day to see that initial 53-man roster. Really random question, but what gear do you use to produce your videos and live chats? Live chats. So I guess gear. So the software I use for live chats is StreamYard. For videos, I use Camtasia. And then as far as gear goes, I have a Shure microphone. I have a Rodecaster Pro 2. And then I've got a supercharged Mac Pro something, Mac Studio, I think is what it's called. And then 2 lights and a ring light next to me. So that's the gear and the equipment and the software that I use to kind of do everything. All right, coming back to Ben at 3:00 p.m. here with his chat. But Celestial Prophet says, I think Love has been taking a lot of hate when our receivers are not that good against man coverage. Like if throws behind blind people mad about interceptions. Like if throws blind people mad about INTs. I'm not sure about that last part, Celestial Prophet, but I do think like this last 7-on-7 period where the CEO, like he went like 3 of 12 or whatever. He did miss Nair on one for a touchdown. That's one Love needs to connect on. No question about it. It wasn't close, unfortunately, on that particular play. That's where he needs to improve. But I did think for the most part, the receivers, tight ends, etc., struggled in that period at first glance and didn't give him a lot of opportunity on places to throw the ball. Also, credit Seattle. I thought their defense was really impressive in that period as well. But yeah, I don't think, and this is why Matt, whenever things are going well with Jordan or when things are not going well with Jordan, it takes all 11 on the field. It's everyone all together. It's not just Jordan. It's not just the receivers. It's not just the offensive line and tight ends. It's everyone all together. When everyone's doing their part, things look really good. See end of 2023. When things aren't going well and not doing their part, it looks very disjointed all the way around. We saw that kind of at the end of last year, specifically a little bit in that Eagles game, as well as that Bears game and that Vikings game to end the season. So just takes everyone doing their part and kind of coming together for the greater good. And it's not just on Jordan. Golden might not be a Justin Jefferson, but I would think his ceiling is definitely higher than St. Brown or DJ Moore's, right? Ceiling maybe, but I'll just say right now that if Matthew Golden is either a Amon-Ra St. Brown or a DJ Moore, I would sign that immediately. Sign me up for either. I would gladly take that. So no, I don't. It's certainly not in the Justin Jefferson range. That would be pretty crazy. But if he got to the level of DJ Moore or Amon-Ra St. Brown, those would be huge outcomes in my opinion, and would be more than worth taking for Matthew Golden. Philly's had a lot of success running right at Parsons. To be fair, Philly's had a lot of success running right at just about everyone. Yeah, that's just Philly. That's what they're very good at. Also, I trust Jeff Hafley to utilize Micah Parsons in ways that are going to be very successful. Even if on early downs you want to use him as an off-ball linebacker, and then on later downs you want to use him as an obvious pass rusher, you can do a lot of that stuff as well. Who do you think gets the 5th cornerback spot if Hardman doesn't make the team? Who's the other punt returner besides Nixon? I don't know that last question. I honestly don't. I don't have a great feel for punt returner at all. Jaden Reed could potentially still do it from time to time, but we know that doesn't go great. I would expect Nixon to have that opportunity, but that's a really interesting one that I don't have a great answer to. I don't think there's a natural punt returner on this team, period, at the moment, other than Mecole Hardman. And I'm not sure he makes the team. So they're going to have to figure that out. And as far as 5th corner, I'm going to lean Micah Robinson at the moment. But this is, again, where if you told me it was any of them, I would not be surprised whatsoever. Should we be concerned with Jordan's play post-surgery? No, because he had his best day of camp 2 days ago. Yesterday was up and down, but it was just one 7-on-7 period. I'm not judging anything off of that. The day before that, he had some really impressive throws, also had a couple interceptions, but not basing anything off of that because he's taking great care of the football all training camp long. And then the day after that, the day in between, I should say, he had his best day of training camp. So no concerns at this point. Parsons is definitely an elite player, but he disappears against the better teams in the playoffs. I disagree with that. Maybe defensive pieces in Green Bay alongside of him can help. He didn't have a great game against Green Bay in that one game. He's had some other big games in the playoffs. Also, you just have to remember every team is doing everything they can to take Micah Parsons out of the game, and game planning specifically for him in those situations. That has value in and of itself. And yes, it's going to take everyone to go out and do their job. If Micah Parsons is getting doubled or tripled or getting all that attention, yeah, that's exactly what you want. So you're hoping to free up Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark for some of those one-on-one matchups that they should be able to win in those instances. But even if he's, generating and garnering that attention, that can be a win in and of itself. Not very happy hour for me, unfortunately. Belt controlling my coolant in my truck broke. They can only fix it during the Packers game. That's brutal, Ben, but hopefully you get the bad news over with now, and then going into the regular season, you can avoid all bad news and avoid any bad juju for Packers games moving forward. But best of luck to you in that. Andy, noticed Love using the wristband last year. Do you think that is something that will continue this year? For sure. And by the way, that's not a bad thing. That's just that's to get things out quicker. What can happen is, Matt LaFleur reads out a 20-word play call, and then Jordan's got to read out a 20-word play call. And then you get to the line of scrimmage and the play clock's at like 5. And then you lose out on your cadence, and you lose out on being able to read the defense, and you lose out on a lot of that, opportunity to get up to the line of scrimmage quicker. So instead, Matt LaFleur says, blue 8 or whatever the case may be. Jordan looks down at blue 8. All right, then he reads off the big 20-word, play call. But rather than having to do 20 words and then 20 words and then get to the line, it's just blue 8 and then 20 words and then get to the line. And it saves you a chunk of that communication time. So there's no problem with the wristband of like, oh, Jordan doesn't know the calls or the offense, or nothing to do with that. That is just to speed up the process so Jordan can get to the line of scrimmage quicker. Today, Peter Bukowski suggested that the receivers may be having drop issues in part because they aren't being consistent playing time and getting into a groove. Yeah, I don't buy that. I don't buy that for a second. Nothing against Peter. It's a theory, I guess. But you are a professional wide receiver. And top thing on your list of job descriptions, number 1, catch the damn ball. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yes, you have to get open. Yes, you have to know the routes and the concepts and the depth of the target, and you've got to be fast enough. And there's a lot of thing on that job description. Number 1, catch the damn ball. I don't care who's the quarterback. I don't care what the ball looks like. I don't care how contested it is. The ball is in your vicinity, catch the damn ball. I don't care if you get one play. If you get one play and it's a contested catch 50-50 ball, catch the damn ball. That's your job description. Pure and simple. I have no time for excuses outside of that. I'm not saying it has to be 100% catch rate, by the way. That's not realistic. That's not a real expectation. But you've got to be able to go out there, perform your job, catch the ball. And if you can't, guess what? Then you're going to be on the bench. And I guess those other players are going to be getting more consistent playing time than you. So no, I have zero tolerance for that. I have that to me is not a fair enough theory. I don't care if, again, you're out there for one rep, you get one ball thrown your way, catch it. You're a pro NFL wide receiver. Catch the damn ball. Hope your Friday is going good, Andy. Do you think Isaiah Nair's only path to seeing time on the field is wide receiver injuries? Seem like he's been creating lots of separation early. Yeah, he's been generating a lot of buzz as of late. I think he's a very clear practice squad candidate. Probably one of their top practice squad, targets would be my guess there. I don't think he gets claimed. I don't think, he ends up on their 53, but he could be somebody. I was talking like, if you remember Jeremy Ross and DeJuan Harris, there was a lot of buzz and excitement from Green Bay with those two on the practice squad, and then calling them up to the active roster that they were actually going to be able to do something. Ross really didn't. DeJuan Harris really did. He could be somebody that if he makes the practice squad and continues to project the right way and progress the right way, if that ends up being the case, maybe he could be somebody that gets a call up midway through the season due to some injuries and maybe even getting some opportunities. But he's got some really talented wide receivers ahead of him, and Christian Watson's going to come back from PUP at some point. He's got a roadblock in front of him, but hopefully Green Bay can get him back on the practice squad. Hard to say that Golden ceiling is higher than St. Brown since he is still only 25 and entering his peak. Yeah, St. Brown, I am one of the card-carrying members of the Amon-Ra St. Brown, not fan club because he's a Detroit Lion and was kind of a douche when he came to Lambeau and whatnot, but just of what he brings to the game. I don't think he gets quite the credit that he deserves. He's an absolute stud at wide receiver and impacts every single game, despite every team knowing the ball is going to him like 10 to 12 times per game. Just as consistent of a player as you can possibly have at wide receiver. Would you consider doing a subscriber or members fantasy football pick'em league like Tom Grossi does every year? Elite Chicken, boy, do I have news for you. I also have done it the last 2 years, and the winner gets tickets to a regular season Packers game. I just gifted those out to the person who won a season ago. They are going to Packers Lions this year, opening week, because they won the pick'em league. Actually, last year was like we did a true pick'em 2 years ago. Last year we did it was like a weighted pick'em. So you did like 16 for you think the team that you think is most likely to win, 15, 14, 13, etc. Last year we did it that way. I'll do something again this year. I don't know if it's going to be a pure pick'em or if I do like a survivor league or something like that, but I will do something to do that prize again. And the winner will get tickets to a game next year. Again, that will be for any Pack-A-Day podcast member. So if you're not a member yet, now is a great time to sign up. Listen to your pod on the trade. Part of the reason the Packers haven't been to a Super Bowl in 15 years is their conservative approach. Yes or no? Yes, but primarily during the end of the Ted era, not in the Goody era. I think they've been pretty aggressive overall in the Goody era. In the Ted era, there was a lot of meat left on the bone there. And I mean, a lot of meat left on the bone where he had a ton of opportunities to improve that roster and just didn't, and got kind of to the point where there were just real like corner, the Ladarius Gunter, Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins sort of stuff. And there are just real deficiencies on the roster. And there wasn't enough done to address some of those deficiency. And I get next guy up, but if next guy up is a player that wouldn't even make, most teams, it's not a good enough next guy up. So I do think the answer is yes/true, but I think that was more at the end of the Ted Thompson era and less to do with the current Brian Gutekunst era. Go Pack Go. Love this question. Question. I don't know which one it was, but glad somebody asked it. Would you categorize week 1 as a must win or can't lose? I would not. I do think they can't go 0-2. That would be a lot more catastrophic. Not end of the world, but they really just can't start 0-2 with both of those teams being really good and both of those being home games. I think that would be more catastrophic. But no, I think they can lose to Detroit and then beat Washington, beat Cleveland week 3, and then beat Dallas week 4, go into the bye week 3-1 and be totally fine. So no, nowhere near a must win or can't lose or anything like that. It's a huge game. I would love to win it, but no, even if you just beat Washington that next week, to me, just go 1-1 in those first 2 games, and ideally go 3-1 in your first 4. Heck, if you beat Washington and Detroit, you somehow lose to Dallas in that 4th week or whatever, I still think you're off to a great start. So just get me to 3-1 going into that bye week, and I will be very, very happy. 2-2 is fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. You cannot be 1-3 or 0-4 going into that bye week. That would be catastrophic. Let's see. You can go all in like the Bears went for Mac. You can go all in for Stafford like the Rams did. Depends on what the team is like before that move/injury, etc. That's fair. Could you go over why you changed your view on Quay after the Bears game last year? I'm old enough to remember you being done with him. Well, Richard, my very famous, and it's not that famous, but after, it was right before that game, he had a brutal game. He knew it too. He very much knew he had a really bad game. And that was, we were in year 3 of Quay last year. His first 2 years were below average in my estimation. And you were going into that game, or right after that game, after a really bad game, you were in year 3, direction that we saw the first 2 years. You had a new linebackers coach in Anthony Campanelli. You had a new defense in Jeff Hafley, and it looked the same or worse than it did in the prior 2 seasons. So yeah, I had kind of just said, I think I'm kind of done with the Quay Walker experience. I think I've seen all I need to see. We've seen 2.5+ years and different defenses, different roles, different linebacker coaches, different defensive coordinators. And I think I'm good with what I've seen. And then he proceeded immediately after that to have a 3-week stretch, including the next 2 games right after that, which I thought were his best 2 games as a Green Bay Packer, and about a 3-game stretch that was, again, as good as he has put on tape, period, end of story, that showed finally proof of concept of what really good Quay Walker looks like. Then unfortunately, he got injured right after that. And then coming back from his injury, he was mostly fine again. I will just say that was the first time for a semi-extended period in a 3-week period of time that we got a real look at really good to great Quay Walker. And it was freaking awesome. So yeah, if I get more of that, I want more of that. That's the Quay Walker that you spend a first round pick on. That's the Quay Walker that makes a big time impact on this defense. For 2.5 years up to that, we didn't see that. Glimpses here and there, sure, but nothing consistent through a game, much less a 3 or 4 week period of time. And then, of course, right as I say it, I'm kind of done with Quay Walker. Boom, 3 of the best games he's ever played. Awesome. I mean, I'm not correlating them by any stretch of the imagination, just was happenstance. But right after that, goes out and has his best 3 games. And if he continues to play like that, hell, sign him to a huge extension. That looked freaking awesome. So just it all, to me, there is, I'm sure somewhere deep down, I guess there's probably a bias somewhere because I'm human. I legitimately can look you in the eye and say, I don't have a rooting interest for one player over another, or a rooting interest against any player one over the other. Other than that, I am a Packers fan, and whatever 53 players are on that roster, whatever 17 guys are on that practice squad, and who's ever carrying that G on their helmet, I want every single one of those guys to succeed. And I want every single one of them to be a Hall of Famer. I am cheering every one of them on. So to me, when I'm going in evaluating, it's just based on what I'm seeing on tape. And by the way, I will get things wrong from time to time as well. I will see it one way and maybe it's a different way. I will get things wrong, but I put a lot of time, effort, and energy into watching every player and every play. And when I see for 2.5 years, somebody that just has not been able to put it together, and again, different schemes, defenses, etc., I get to the point of like, all right, I think I'm kind of ready for something different here. Let's see if we can try something new. And thankfully, then I'll just end with this. I would much rather be wrong. I would much rather be wrong and Quay go out and dominate than me be like, see, told ya, I was right. Quay sucks. No, I will rather throw egg on my face forever. I would rather, like, you can play that thing of I'm done with Quay Walker on repeat until the end of time. I will add it to the end of every single show. If he goes out and becomes a Hall of Fame linebacker, I will gladly eat as much crow as I can possibly eat because I am cheering that dude on. So no, that I just saw a different Quay in those 3 games, which is why I talk about him much differently when he's playing great than the 2.5 years prior to that, where it was like, this is not that good. So I hope we just see really great Quay again, and I can eat crow from now until the end of time. That would be awesome. As soon as Andy said he was done with Quay started playing really well compared to what we've seen out of him. Then he got injured, and we'll see. Ben, this is why you should just come in and just take what I say for 5 minutes and cut it down to a 10-second snippet, because that is perfectly said. Really enjoyed your convo with Justice about how many guys are devoted to teams. Always felt like it was low-hanging fruit to have a dominant group. Why do you think more teams don't try to take advantage? I just think that there's not an easy way to build a perfect team with only 53 guys and 48 guys active on your game day roster, and you have competing interests. You have to have enough players on offense to be successful. You have to have enough good players on defense to be successful. You also don't want to let go of players that you've invested in that aren't ready to play yet, but you certainly cannot give up on. I wouldn't quite put like Anthony Belton in that category because I think he's a good enough depth piece along the offensive line. But Anthony Belton's kind of like in that conversation, right? Where in an ideal world, you really don't want him playing on offense yet. In an ideal world, you would give him some time to develop. He has no special teams value, but you're certainly not cutting that guy. He's way too talented. You just spent a 2nd-round pick on him. So you just have a lot of competing interests between, hey, we need guys on offense. Hey, we need guys on defense. Hey, we're not cutting these 15 guys because they have a ton of value and we need to see them develop. All right, great. What's left over for special teams? Well, Brandon McManus, Matt Orzik, Daniel Whalen. That's what you get. And everything else will try to make some concessions on special teams here or there, but you're only limited to so many roster spots. So I think that's why it's really difficult. You're just going to, you ultimately at some point have to decide, all right, we're going to have to cut some stuff from, some of our good offensive players to keep some specialists, or we're going to have to keep a few less defenders to keep some specialists, or we're going to have to give up on some developmental players to keep some specialists. Which one do you want? And there's no easy answer. And it could end up costing your offense. It could end up costing your defense. Or if you don't do it, it could end up costing your special teams. or it could make you give up on a player sooner than you'd like a Lawrence Guy. You end up giving up on a Lawrence Guy, maybe, who was a 7th round pick for Green Bay, wasn't ready to play on defense, gave you no value on special teams. So you give up on him a little bit earlier. He goes to New England and becomes a decade-long, really good defensive tackle. How do you want to pick your poison in those situations? There's no easy formula. There's no, GMing for dummies. You just got to be able to make your gut decision and try to put the best team together possible. No updates on Sorrell or Oliver other than we know that Sorrell is an MCL injury and that he's probably going to be a few weeks here, but it's not a long-term injury for Barron Sorrell, which is probably the best news that we could possibly have. So few teams really seem to not care about teams at all. So even a little bit of effort gets you a long way. Hypothetically, happy Friday, everyone. Definitely knew what you were cooking there, Will. Do you have any word on how Nate Hobbs is progressing? Nothing on the injury front. We only get what Matt tells us in the press conferences pretty much, and he doesn't give us a ton usually from an injury situation. I love this team, Austin. Me too. No great video this week. These are my favorite videos. Sebastian, I have graded a total of 0 snaps from that game. I am dead set on trying to grade every snap of it tonight and get a video out tonight at like midnight, 1, 2 a.m. just to keep this thing going. I know that nobody cares at this point other than probably you and maybe even a little bit of me about the grades from this past second preseason week. But damn it, Sebastian, I'm going to do everything in my power to still grade every player tonight to get out before tomorrow's preseason game, launch it late tonight, still launch tomorrow's pregame video tomorrow, and kind of go from there. But I'm running out of time. I am hopeful to get it done tonight. It probably takes me about 6-7 hours to grade everything, not to mention put together the video. I will tell you right now, if I do get a video out, it is going to be a very short video, just short and sweet. Here's who is best, here's who is worst, etc. It's not going to be anything super flashy or anything like that. But I'm desperately going to try to get it done tonight just for you, Sebastian, because damn it, I have integrity and I want to keep this thing going. I honestly don't care about the preseason grades as much. So if I don't get to it, I'm not going to be heartbroken by it. But for 7 years, I've never missed a regular season grade, and that will continue moving forward. But my hope is still tonight to get to those grades if I can, by any way, shape, or form possible. Mike and West, yes, Spofford and West divide what they're watching for sure sometimes as well. Am I going to be doing a Packers player rewards prediction show, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year? I hope to do so. Might be a members only thing, but I hope to do some sort of season prediction. I probably will do a Packers preseason superlative show, maybe with Perry and Grant coming up for this week. Usually we kind of like to do those shows. So I'll try to get to something like that for this week for sure. O-line can't keep from holding, put them in boxing gloves next practice, then sumo suits the wide receivers that drop practice so they need to catch with their hands. By any means necessary at this point. All right, I'm going to try to wrap up with some member chats only here. Depending on how long Sorrell is out, he'd have to be on IR designated to return, not PUP. Yeah, you can't put him on PUP because he's been practicing. Yep, you are totally correct there, Ben. All right. This is where the cool kids are hanging out. Appreciate that, Johnny. Could Savion Williams be in the convo for PR once he gets his feet? Punt returner? I don't think so. I do not think his hands are good enough that you want to trust him as a punt returner. Kick returner, yes. If he muffs a kick return, he's still going to be able to recover that thing. Punt return, I don't trust his hands well enough. So no, I would not put Savion back at punt returner. More important breakout season, LVN or Musgrave? LVN is arguably as important of a breakout season as anybody. If you can get him playing well and really rushing the passer, that changes the defense in a significant way. So easily LVN for me. Do you think having more than 3 good targets can actually hurt efficiency? For example, it would hurt the Vikings to add another piece because it would take targets away. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's such thing as having too many great targets. I don't think if all of a sudden you've got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, if they were add Jamar Chase to that, you'd be like, oh man, it's just going to really hurt everyone. I'm not a believer in that philosophy at all. Give me Jamar Chase at all costs, regardless of what you have already at wide receiver. With that in mind, do you think all the options might potentially be hurting Love? No. I know our receivers aren't anywhere near the Vikings, but think it's an interesting principle. I do not think so. I do think giving him somebody that is a real true go-to can definitely help at times. But sometimes that can hurt too. But I give me the Jamar Chase, give me the Justin Jefferson, give me an alpha. I think that could help him. But to me, just get him good weapons, and Jordan is responsible for doing the heavy lifting after that. Uh, Not sure what those two are in regards to. Oh, here we go. Dawson. Hey, Andy, Canadian here. Was recently in Nashville. Had to grab a Luigi's Big Daddy. Trying tonight. Hope the hype is worth it. Dawson, enjoy it. They are awesome. Again, we've got the Big Daddy right here. It's melting on me. So I'm gonna have to go throw this in the oven right after. We've got the Big Daddy right here. I'm looking forward to it tonight. All right. Just joined. Sorry, I missed this super chat earlier. Just joined. So sorry if I missed it, but how has Edgerrin Cooper done lately? Awesome. Super excited about him, but I don't want to get my hopes up. No, he looks really, really, really great. It's tough at linebacker in practice because so much of your game is involved with hitting and tackling, and you can't do that at practice. There's only so many opportunities as a linebacker to get an interception or a sack or things like that, but he looks fast as hell, and he is everything as advertised. Looks like he's picking up right where he left off from a season ago. Never really like an early bye week, but with our current injury status in situation, I will definitely take it. It's a great point, Nathan. It's not a bad situation to be in right now with some of the injuries that are out there for sure. Sign me up for the newer Quay Walker. If Edge Cooper can take the next step forward and both of those guys stay healthy, watch the heck out. That would be amazing. Yeah. If Quay is good, it's not egg on my face. It's actually because of me, damn it, that Quay ended up being good. No, that is very much not true, but I'll take the credit nonetheless. You have to bet your entire life savings on this over under 2.5 drops Packers week 1. What are you taking? I'll take the over, I guess, and bet on that. But and I guess if I'm wrong, at least they didn't drop 3 passes in that game. But yeah, I don't want to bet my life savings on anything, but I guess I would probably take the over on that one. I just wonder why you can only have 48 active in the first place. Why not just a full 53 active? So, Ben, the reason being is they don't want like specialists. They don't want you to be able to have like a designated like field goal blocker, meaning like you're going out and signing like Giannis to be like a 7 or like 2 Giannis's to be like 2 7-foot tall, just field goal blockers in the middle of the kick unit. They don't want it to get to that point where you just have these, you've got your main roster and then like 4 or 5 guys that can just do one specific thing. They want you to be able to put an actual roster together so you don't get to like that level of specialty on some of these roster spots. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But my guess is if we get more games, you could see that go up to 49 or maybe even 50 players in the near future. Yes, Luigi's Pizza is available outside of Wisconsin. I don't know if it's available in Dayton, Ohio. But if you reach out to Luigi's, they'll definitely get back to you on what if there's any available in your area. I don't think they're available in Colorado. So unfortunately not. But when you get to Green Bay, definitely make sure to try one. High school football starting in my area tonight. Packers play tomorrow. Badgers play on Thursday. We are so back. Good time to be a football fan. No question about it. What would your reaction be if I said I like Jack's Pizza better than Luigi's? I would judge you, Beast Bumblebee. That's not even a knock on Luigi's. That's a bigger knock on Jack's Pizza. Jack's is fine and maybe you're a high school or college kid that's on a budget or whatever. I mean, go do your thing. It got me through some high school and college stuff, but man, we are talking about a premium frozen pizza versus just like a thrown together frozen pizza. We're not even in the same stratosphere of quality when it comes to Luigi's or Jack. So man, I'm an equal opportunity exploiter of all things pizza. I love pizza all day, every day. There's nothing wrong with one, but Luigi's is here, my friend. And Jack's just does not hit that same level of quality. My personal opinion. Before you ban me, I've never had Luigi's. I'll have to try to find it. There you go. Not banning you, to each their own. I don't know about Jack's, but Motor City Pizza is pretty good. I like Detroit style pizza, by the way. I'm not a huge deep dish pizza guy, but again, I love all pizza, but my heart is set on Luigi's. That's for sure. My hubby and I tried Luigi's Pizza this week from Woodman's. Excellent recommendation. Thanks much. Go, Andy. See, I told you, I will not let you guys down. I'm a very picky eater, but the stuff that I do eat is really, really good. And Luigi's frozen pizza is really, really good. Are the Badgers going to not disappoint me this year? Or do I need to put my head in the sand like last year? Probably put your head deep in the sand would be my guess here, Ben. I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, but their schedule is brutal. And I mean, capital all the way around, brutal. It is really rough. To be clear, I don't think Jax is that good. It's just okay. See, that's the thing. It's fine. It's fine, but nothing too special. All right, friends, all the questions are answered. I appreciate you guys for joining on chat today. Reminder, Aaron Nagler coming up over on Cheesehead TV, Packers Daily coming up at 4:00 p.m. You can just head right over there, make one stop right to the other, and you get your 2 hours of Packers content. I don't know if Aaron goes a full hour, but he'll have you covered for a good at least 30 minutes, I would think, if not longer than that. So a good time to be a Packers fan. Go check him out. Thank you for joining me. You can, of course, follow me at Andy Herman NFL. Make sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Check out those Pack-A-Day YouTube memberships. I'll be back tomorrow, live post-game show, and of course, hopefully a grading video and a pre-game show as well. I'll see you guys then, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.